All right, we're back. This is video 5 in the current state program kind of that we're putting together. And I wanted to take a pause here and actually talk about a tool. So normally what we try to do here on the Flow Created channel is we really want to stick with principles, because principles are something you can apply in any single situation, right? So everybody's situation is different. Every value stream is completely different. Every widget we make, every product that we're putting out, they're all different. So you have to have a set of principles that you can apply. And that said, today I'm going to dive a little bit into a tool, but it's a fundamental tool that we're going to need to know how to use. And I kind of want to get us a little bit on the same page. So today we're going to talk about value stream mapping. And I'm going to just kind of try to answer that question. What is the whole intent of value stream mapping? Why are we doing it? And is it really that important? And what are some of the hangups and the things that over the last 30 years I've been doing this? What are some of the problems that I've seen with it? So stick around. We're going to get into that today. We're going to see some examples. And at the end of this, I want you to really be comfortable with, okay, I know why I need to do this, and it's not some rigid methodology and some tool that I have to go and implement exactly as, let's say, Mike Rother developed it. So thanks, and we'll see you out there. All right, so today's subject, value stream mapping. We're going to get into it, but before we get into that, I need to back up a step. I need to talk a little bit about what we call, or what I call, system improvements, and kind of talk a little bit about the approach that we're on. And so let me throw this graphic here up on the screen. What we're looking at here is the big picture kind of a process. And I got this straight from Mike Rother. He's awesome. Anything he's written and done, he's the real deal. So all credit to him on this. But where we're at right now is on that bottom left side. See that circle? It says current state, and there's a number 1 next to it. That's where you are. We are there, right? The number 2 is all the way in the top right, all right? Ultimately, what we're going to develop will be what's called an ideal state. An ideal state is not something that we understand how to get to. An ideal state has, like I've listed here, unclear steps. You don't put a plan together to get to an ideal state. The ideal state, I consider it like a gravitational force. It's pulling you in a direction, right? It might have a lot of purest, lean principles in it, like a one-piece flow cell. It might have, batch sizes, which for us would be inconceivable right now. Those kinds of principles, zero scrap or zero rework, right? So an ideal state is it's a gravitational force that's pulling us in a direction. We develop that. We have consensus around it. It brings the benefit to the team of discussing those ideal principles around lean manufacturing. But again, you don't put a plan together. Then there's the step 3 on that screen there in the middle called target condition. That's where you put a clear plan together. The target condition is always in the direction of your ideal state. From your current state to your ideal state, you want to be on that path, right? And the target condition is nothing more than the elimination of problems, of wastes, of issues that result in us getting one step closer to our ideal state, right? So your your target condition, it might be 3 days, 5 days, 7 days, especially if you're new at this. It might be a month or 2 if maybe you're more advanced and you're used to doing rapid improvement events on the floor. You have an advanced team of implementers that can go out and really make changes quickly on the floor, right? It just depends on your culture and where you are. So that's it for system CIP, or system improvement process. I wanted to put this all in perspective, right? It's important that we are able to do that, because now in discussing value stream mapping, the value stream mapping is the thing we're going to use to communicate each of those. It's the thing we're going to use to talk about where are we right now, right? Where do we ultimately want to end up with our ideal state? And all right, and what's our target condition? What do I want this place to look like at the end of the month, right? Let's get these 3 projects done, bang out these issues, whether it be a scrap or rework or whether it be a changeover time or some such issue. What fundamentally is going to change in my value stream, and what does the future look like? In order to be successful with that, you've got to be able to communicate those ideas. You've got to be able to communicate where you are and where you're going, right? It can't be that, oh, I have these files and this data over here, and this teammate knows this, and this team member knows this, and this team, right? We want to have everything all together in one place. Does anyone not know this book? I'm sure we've all read this book, right? Mike Rother and John Shook put this out, gosh, in the 90s, I'm guessing. It might have been the 80s, but I'm pretty sure it was the 90s. That's when I first saw it at any rate. And my first foray into this book and trying to understand it, I think I went about it completely wrong. I looked at this as this tool that I had to master in this exact way. I mean, I remember drawing the different shapes and things that Mike has in here for supermarkets and, data boxes and all of this. I remember taking a ruler out and trying to draw the squares the same size and make everything like an engineering drawing. You've seen this, right? We know what we're talking about here. That as I've learned over the years, that's not what the intent here is. It's not to make a great presentation. It isn't to make something pretty. It doesn't give you any answers. The fundamental purpose of a value stream map is to be able to communicate a few key things, right? It's just like, I'm going to throw up some pictures here. It's just like when you're going to war, you're going to battle, right? When you're attacking, you got to know where your forces are. You've got to know where your enemy's forces are. You've got to know every possible piece of information that you can get in order to make the best decisions possible. And that's really what a value stream map is, especially that current state, right? So I'm going to throw up a couple of examples here. I'm just going to go quickly through them. A lot of the data here has been changed because some of it is confidential. So if you see some irregularities in math that doesn't line up, then it's not about that. This is more about just communicating what these things look like. A value stream map that can be very simple. It can be very basic. You might be communicating something about a very small portion of your value stream between 2 or 3 little processes. Hey, let's set this up like this. You might sketch that on a dry erase board in an office. You might, sketch it up and email it to your buddy so that you can get an improvement plan going together, right? Current state maps can take on a little bigger form here. You'll see where I'm starting to pull in customer demand information, where I'm pulling in, of course, information flow and scheduling information and product flow. And I should have mentioned that earlier. The fundamental 2 elements of any value stream map, whether you're talking current state, target condition, ideal state, you want to understand how information flows and how product flows, because product won't move unless the information does, right? So information is typically flowing down and into the value stream in a certain way, and that information is then triggering production and making product move through the value stream and having us add value to the raw materials and ultimately make a sellable product. On this example here, you can see they can become, I don't want to say complicated, but they can become comprehensive, right? In this example, you'll see I have all this demand data on the right, in the top right there. I have the customer breakdowns. I have the product family breakdowns. All of that stuff that we discussed in the first 4 videos. There's TAKT time analyses in there. And then, of course, you'll see the information flow kind of mapped, in this case, towards the top. And then the product flow flowing down, in this case, down the middle there. And then you'll see lots of different symbols, which we can get into, identifying different problems, identifying challenges, where maybe quality checks are done, where we have high scrap rates, those kinds of things, right? The advantage of having all of this in one place is your cross-functional team, right? You're the guys from accounting, finance, of course, operations, quality. everybody's around the table and they're looking at all of the data at the same time, right? They're looking at sales data. They're looking at operational data. They're looking at cost data, right? They're looking at everything that's relevant to that value stream so that you can get a good picture, right? It's extremely efficient way to get the major points across really quickly and have everything in one spot. So a lot of people don't do it this way. Perhaps this is a little unorthodox, but it's something that I like to do. I literally take screenshots of Excel documents and everything, and I drop it right in there so that we can reference it and say, hey, no, remember, this is our top selling family, or this family isn't represented in this value stream because of this and this and this, and here's the data that shows that, right? Here's our scrap rates. Here's how many people are working in the area. Because often is the case when you have a cross-functional team and you're in a room and you didn't go through this process of putting everything together in one spot, there's always discussion, and it becomes extremely inefficient about, well, how many people are working there? What actually is our scrap rate? Do we really have that? So I like to put that data really all in one spot, right? There's no more, it just eliminates those questions, right? Now, as you're building this might take you a week, 2 weeks to build for your value stream. You're meeting every day with that cross-functional team, right? You're showing them, you're building it. It's at that time that they're asking the questions, they're validating the data, they're providing the data for you, so that the cross-functional team is bringing all of that data to the table. You're putting it all in one place. You're creating that battle, current state battle. I don't want to call it a plan yet, because it's really the status of where all of your enemy forces are and where all of your forces are. And eventually from that current state, that's what we're going to take to go to battle. The big thing here, our total approach is we want to understand the current state. We want to understand and have consensus on what an ideal state could be for this value stream. And then together we want to develop a target condition, which is based upon solving the biggest issues facing your value stream today that were identified. And so the value stream map is what makes that possible. The communication of where you are, where you're going, and having all of that information together from a lot of different disciplines of all the different people that are on your team. That's the function of it. Don't get hung up in the shapes. Don't get hung up in the looks of it, all of the details that go along with the book and learning to see. That's Mike's way of doing it, and it's fantastic. And I've adopted many of those techniques, but make it your own. Understand that the principle behind value stream mapping is to communicate information flow and product flow primarily. For your value stream, that might look completely different, and you might need to come up with a creative way to document everything. That's your value stream map. That's it. Get those points across. We want to make sure that the value stream map, it's the last point I'm going to make, it's like casting a net behind a fishing boat. You want to cast the net behind the boat to catch the big fish. And you want to make sure that you get the biggest fish. If you cast a super tiny net and spend 6 months making the most perfect value stream map, all the stuff that you did 4, 5, and 6 months prior has already been changed and everything. So speed is important. Document everything to the point to where you're capturing the biggest problems, so that when you attack them and solve them, you're taking a step in the direction of your ideal state. All right, guys, good luck. If you have any questions, leave a comment below. Email me, info@flowcreated.com. You can find me on LinkedIn. You can find me on Facebook. However you want to do it, get in touch with me. I'm happy to help out as much as you need. And remember, don't be a 5S'er. Go out to the floor and create flow.